My name is Adam Levitan, joined by the best ball king himself, Justin Herzig. Rolling Stone, how's it going today, buddy?
Doing well. Excited to get to drafting, and we've got a pretty strong number 2 pick to start us off with.
Indeed. You'll remember last week on YouTube and on the podcast, we did a show with myself, Herzig, and Leone about how we change our strategy specific to DraftKings. There are 20 rounds. It is full PPR. There are yardage bonuses, and we'll talk about some other strategic differences that we make. The idea on today's stream, is try to implement some of those strategies, and that starts right away here. Whereas on Underdog, I would probably actually take Saquon Barkley second overall. On DraftKings, full PPR, 20 rounds, and kind of the way that it sets up in round 2, 3 turn. I like the way we have it here with Justin Jefferson second overall. Herzig, any problem with or any thoughts on the number 2 pick here?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to what's the 2v2 that you're building in that early second or late second, early third pick. And there's a lot of good running backs we like there. There are not many great wide receivers. So Justin Jefferson's a great pick for me at the 2.
For sure. And you see here, we're going to pick again at 23 and 26. And if you just sort by ADP, well, what's going to be available around that 23 to 26 range? Maybe Bucky falls. Maybe Josh Jacobs is indeed there. You have Chase Brown here at 29 that you could reach for at 26 if you wanted to. So it's not like you're shut out at running back here at the 2-3 turn. All right. Try to make this draft board look good for everyone. See 4 straight running backs go here on DraftKings, which is not typically the way that it goes. We actually have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked a bit below market here. I believe we have him 10th on DraftKings, where he does not catch as many receptions as someone like, say, a CeeDee Lamb. Then the big one that has been getting a lot of buzz lately, Herzig, is the Christian McCaffrey stuff. Health coming out of OTAs sounded really good. Normally you can get him here 9, 10, 11. He goes 5th here in this one. And honestly, like, if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy the whole year, it's going to look good. The bet against Christian McCaffrey is simply he's 29 years old and has a ton of Achilles and knee things. Have you moved Christian McCaffrey up your board off of the OTA stuff?
Yeah, in our recent podcast where we talked about the kind of ADP changes, what we were higher or lower, one of the things I was talking about is I like McCaffrey more than Ashton Genty. I think for the upside case that we've seen in Christian McCaffrey year after year is just, does he stay healthy? And as long as he can stay healthy, it sounds like he's healthy heading into camp. I'm expecting that offense to be really strong. You could still stack him later on with someone like Brock Purdy. I mean, I think it's still quite aggressive at number 5 when you can likely get him at the end of the second. But hey, get your guys. And
end of the first, yeah.
Sorry, end of the first, yeah. But I wouldn't be shocked if he moves up to that, middle of the first period.
I mean, and one thing that we keep seeing, over and over again this year is people are pushing up running backs after what happened last year. What hit last year was heavy running back early builds. You see people going with Derrick Henry in full PPR at 11th overall. I would not do that. You see people taking Josh Jacobs here at 16 overall. I would not do that. I actually love Devon Achane this year. I'm not taking him on DraftKings format over Nico Collins or Brian Thomas Jr. So you see people starting to kind of do, hey, last year running back hit in a big way. If it hits in a big way again, and here's Bucky Irving going here, at 18 or 19 overall. So yeah, the running back thirst is real for sure this year, Herzig.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good reason for, if you're doing drafts, to get a feel for if you want to do it before drafts, but take a look at like the pockets of the drafts where you see some value compared to our ranks. And even if we do miss out on the running backs early on here, we're not going to reach for a running back just to fill it out, because in that 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, there's a lot of running backs that we still like that we think have good values, even though, we often see running backs kind of overdrafted on DraftKings compared to other sites.
Yep, and here we are with A.J. Brown slipping to us. This is 23. A.J. Brown's ADP is 19.8. This is also our best rank here on A.J. Brown. And, bets against Saquon Barkley are kind of bets on more passing volume. If there is more passing volume for the Eagles, I certainly think A.J. Brown's going to benefit. I would take A.J. Brown here. Herzig, any thoughts?
Easy pick. And this early in the draft, getting that kind of unique combo as well. I guess it may not be that unique right now because his ADP is 19.8. We're used to him going a little earlier, but I think he's going to be a player that we see get drafted earlier in that mid-second, early second as the year goes on.
All right, we have two wide receivers already. In my opinion, the Chase Brown T Higgins debate is very, very, very close. If we wanted to go running back here, I have no problem with Chase Brown. Any thoughts on this pick after we started wide receiver, wide receiver?
Do we want to go zero RB?
I mean, I'm more likely to do it on DraftKings
Yeah.
than FanDuel, so than Underdog. So yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And because it'll be interesting, we have two elite-ish quarterbacks that we could stack with if Jalen Hurts falls to us at 47. Then you have the decision of would you take the Joe Burrow? I think that's a bit of a reach for me, but I would take the Jalen Hurts. But it'll be interesting. Or we know how much we love JJ McCarthy. He's
Yeah.
a great stack partner later on for Jefferson.
Yeah, and that's one reason that Jefferson at 2 I think is interesting because JJ McCarthy is one of my favorite quarterback picks, and we have him ranked plenty far above ADP here. Let me just get. Yeah, we're at
Yeah,
108 overall on McCarthy, and he is ADP is 123.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like Sam Darnold was QB8, I believe it was last year, and that's Sam Darnold on this team. Then if JJ McCarthy is being drafted currently at like QB19, doesn't have to do much to overperform that value, and could very easily put up a season similar, if not even better than what Sam Darnold did.
So one of the reasons that zero RB, and I'm not saying we have to go full zero RB here. There's plenty of running backs like Herzig said through this range in the middle that I'm totally fine with. But the reason that zero RB or hero RB, which is actually my preference on DraftKings, can work is because full PPR wide receivers can separate more, and the 100-yard bonus wide receivers can separate more as well. Herzig, any other things to add about doing hero or zero RB on DraftKings versus something like Underdog, which is way more touchdown heavy?
Yeah, I think you really need to read the room. I think on Underdog, because you probably have a lot more high volume drafters, people that are a bit more kind of the more you draft, the more you're likely to kind of take ADP into consideration. You can have a little more confidence in who's going to be available in later parts of the draft. On DraftKings, for whatever reason, maybe it's people who aren't drafting as much. Maybe it's people who are just kind of, hey, they're sportsbook people. They're just getting a feel for best ball. You get some more craziness. I mean, as we saw here, like Bucky going where he went, Jacobs going where he went, HN going, all these players went substantially higher than ADP. So we do want to be careful. Is this a room where we can wait on RBs because the people who are drafting running backs are going to stop? Or is this the people who went 2 running backs, 3 running backs to start are also going to finish with 6, 7 running backs? And we want to make sure that we really don't get left behind. So just something that as you're drafting, take a look at that draft board, keep an eye on, and think through that.
You know, I play like 80 to 90% of my best ball action on DraftKings, and people ask me why. I mean, Jaden Daniels going at 2.12 here ahead of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That's just stuff you don't see on other sites. I mean, people come on DraftKings and do wild, wild stuff. So, and I think the 20 rounds is better for me. I hopefully have a deeper knowledge than my opponents going further. And I think people just don't adjust the scoring system that well. I like all 3 of these guys, Gibbs, Bucky, and Chase Brown. That team 6 did here. But my gosh, man, I don't think I can start like that in full PPR, can I? I mean, what do you think of this Gibbs? We'll see how he lands the plane, quote unquote. But what do you think of Gibbs, Bucky, Chase Brown start here on DraftKings?
For me, the biggest challenge is around the running backs and the rest of the draft. Because if you get a falling crazy value, you kind of have to say, nah, because I already spent so much capital at that. Or you do take running backs later on. But the thing is, if one of those ends up breaking out, let's say you drafted the Bucky Irving, but later on to the Chase Brown, well, it doesn't actually matter that much because you've already invested so much capital at the position you're not trying to hit. So it really just kind of gives you some kind of handcuffed as you go through the draft.
Yeah, and more running backs continue to go very high here. I mean, Mixon, James Cook, Brees Hall, Amari and Hampton all go here. I mean, this is setting up for us to have an ugly, but hopefully a lot of running backs that have a chance for us to hit. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of wide receiver values coming down the pike here for us. And all these guys we have ranked above ADP here.
And I want to make sure, it's not like, hey, we need to get scared that we're not going to get running backs and we want to reach because then it kind of, we lose the value that we got of getting these strong wide receivers early on. So if we have, it's perfectly fine for us to grab 4 wide receivers to start off. I do like the Jalen Hurts. One thought is we probably don't need to take Jalen Hurts in this pick if there is someone we like because the drafter after us took Jaden Daniels and they're unlikely to go both. Who do we have as kind of best available?
Yeah, best available here for us is Ted McMillan or Travis Hunter. Jalen Hurts also, but yeah, I think
Okay.
probably Tet for me.
I would grab Jalen Hurts if we don't have someone we love.
Well, the drafter's not going to take Jalen Hurts. Let's take Tet.
Okay.
This guy Pavermark already has Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I know. That scares me.
he took
Okay.
he took Hunter and Pickens, and we're gonna go ahead with an easy pick now. I think on Jalen Hurts. We could have gone Devonta Smith there for the double. With I do prefer Tet to Devonta Smith in a vacuum, but what do you think about the double for the Eagles? Maybe we could have gone Devonta Smith and then Jalen Hurts here.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that too. I think my main point was I didn't have a strong lean on one of these wide receivers over the other. And so I really want to make sure we got Jalen Hurts. And yeah, got when someone's going to get crazy and draft Jalen that high, maybe they're going to take another one. You never know. It would have been at least a good comedy hour.
One thing that I think about in these super large contests, this is the Millie Maker. This is $2 million to first on a $20 buy-in. There are 882,000 entries in this. One thing I think about is you are going to need like the perfect team. And some of the things that we think about in DFS is like the bigger the field, the more perfect you need to be. So let's say it's week 17, Jalen Hurts goes off with AJ Brown, but Devonta has a really bad game. Can you survive that? In best ball, it's way easier to survive that than in DFS, where a hole in your lineup is totally dead. But in a smaller field, I'm more likely to have Devonta, AJ, and Jalen Hurts. And at least that's the way I think about it. Any thoughts on doubles or triples or overstacking given field sizes, Herzig?
Yeah, I think that logic comes from the DFS world as well of a smaller field contest, maybe only 50 people, 100 people, Thunderdome. Like you're more likely to say, I'm just going to heavily overstack a team and hope on this weekend that team is the one that goes off and I've got enough of the pieces. Here, I think you got to kind of do it on a case by case basis. But in general, I'm going to lean towards the overstacking, even if it is a bit overstacking. If you look at Jalen Hurts and you're making a bet on that passing offense, the ways that that really exceeds value is Jalen Hurts actually positively regresses to a more average throwing attempts. I think he only threw for around like 380 attempts, like 150 or so less than the previous year. And so if we're saying, hey, for him to be successful, yes, he can do the tush push, but we're stacking with AJ Brown. We want them to be throwing more. If they're throwing more, then yeah, Devontae Smith, his value is going to go up. Dallas Goedert, his value is going to go up. So rising tide lifts all ships. And Goddard is probably going to be a good target for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, this is turning out to be a really crazy room. This guy took Josh Allen and Joe Burrow without any stat candidates here. He doesn't have a single wide receiver yet. I mean, there's some crazy things going on here in this room already, things that you do not normally see on other sites for sure. Not scared
I think
off.
we want to be looking at what running backs here. Even if we have to reach a little from our ranks, I think this is the point where we've got 4 very strong wide receivers. We have our elite QB. We know we're going to grab Goddard, so we can easily make this a 3 tight end build. So if we have to reach a little on running back, it's okay. But we got to at least get one.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing we said about running backs is kind of true about wide receivers too. I love Chris Olave. Like if Jalen Waddle slipped to us, I know he's gone already. Like those are guys that I really don't want to have to pass on, but I don't want to say have to, but probably should pass on here. And yeah, we do not have a lot of options at the tight end position either. So yeah, it's going to be running back most likely for us here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, Travion Henderson and like Kenneth Walker, I thought would have been a fine pick for us too, even reaching a bit above ADP all the way back here. He slides to 63 overall. Travion is a pick I like here as well at 66.
Yeah, and I saw you started the Jordan Addison. I do think that's a good one because Jalen Hurts and JJ McCarthy. We already talked about the positives of McCarthy.
We can go there. We can go with Aaron Jones as part of the Minnesota stack here.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's the best bet here because position of need. And this gets a little to where we're talking about overstacking. Like, is Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Jordan Addison too much draft capital? It's close. It's close.
Yeah. So first of all, Aaron Jones plays well in the passing game. So like, I don't love having to go McCarthy, and Hurts. I normally like to have 3 quarterbacks on DraftKings, but if we have Hurts and McCarthy, we may be able to stop at 2. But anyways, we'll talk about that in a minute here. Coming back to us, like Isaiah Likely just went in the 6th round. There's some wild stuff going on. There goes Judkins. So
I kind of wanted Judkins there. Who's the best available running back? We're looking like Pollard and Swift.
Yeah, I mean Pollard's. It would be a reach on ADP and only a little bit of a reach. I'd be fine with Pollard Swift, or Addison, I think are pretty much our only options.
Okay. Let's go with Pollard or Swift. Maybe Swift. And I can give a little thoughts on why Swift, but with that J.K. Dobbins looking at Denver Broncos, I think it's just a little less likely that he signs there, which is another bullet dodge for DeAndre Swift. Every day that we go without them bringing in a Nick Chubb or whoever, another running back, it's just, hey, that much more, a little more confidence we should have in the DeAndre Swift. If you look at our projections, we actually have the unknown getting a decent amount for the running back room, just leaving that possibility open when we sign. So I'm getting a little more confident each day with the Swift.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, seems like the role is going to be there for Swift, and the reason that he's dropping, last this long is simply because everybody assumes Ben Johnson hates him from their time together with the Lions. I mean, maybe he just thought Jahmyr Gibbs was better. It doesn't mean he hates DeAndre Swift. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is better, and maybe David Montgomery is better too. So,
yeah, very true. Very true.
shout out to Kobe representing the ETR logo here. By the way, this stream is indeed sponsored by DraftKings. Everyone should take advantage of their offer. Play your first entry in the $20 Best Ball Millie Maker. Get a $20 Best Ball Millie Maker free ticket in your account to use anytime. So if you're playing Best Ball, play this $20 Millie Maker for the first time. You'll get a ticket to do it again, a free ticket to do it once again.
And even beyond that, keep an eye on the promotions. They have like happy hours. They've gotten random daily promotions that I think I've probably gotten already like 5 or so different free draft tickets that they just kind of offer up. And hey, do a draft during this afternoon or evening, and then we'll give you another ticket or something. So worth keeping an eye out.
Yep. All right, there goes Cooper Kupp, who, by the way, from our stands video or show, hopefully you guys caught that. Cooper Kupp was one of our underweight stands, and there was some angry people in the replies that seemed to really love Cooper Kupp this year. So a controversial. I didn't think that would be a controversial one, but it turned out to be a controversial one.
I've never heard of angry people being in the comment section.
All right, coming back to us here at pick 95 and 98. Aaron Rodgers, as we were getting set to record this, signed with the Steelers. I think that's good news for Jaylen Warren. Aaron Rodgers historically has been accurate and somewhat voluminous throwing to the running back position and just more chances for touchdowns. And so, it depends what you think about Caleb Johnson, but I like Jaylen Warren more now than I did before the Aaron Rodgers thing. I don't love the rest of these running backs through here, though. You also get Diggs.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting if you just show the running backs once more, after the ones that you see on the screen, right when you get to that kind of Javonte Williams, Rachaad White, like it's a major drop off. So these are the last ones in my mind that have actual like line of sight to being the starter / regular everyday value, even though it's not that great. After this, you start really getting into the people who may not even be on the field but have upside, or they have very, very little upside, but they're going to get you some points each week.
Yeah, like the one injury away guys, you start to get into pretty fast here. But yeah, and there's certainly a lot of wide receivers that I still like in this range. And that's kind of an argument. Given that this room was so running back heavy, we could have gotten some pretty good wide receiver values here late that I like. It's tougher for us to click that now.
Fifth wide receiver is still fine. Like, hey, on DraftKings, we normally start 4 wide receivers. Usually start that 4th wide receiver in the flex because of the scoring. Definitely think Jaylen Warren is the pick here because he's a tier above, tier better than the next running.
And I just wanted to note for anyone who's looking at this stuff, this is the Solver Draft Assistant tool. You can see we're overriding it here. I think that it will help you if you're interested in it. It will help you get to a baseline, but in order to make, I think, the best teams, I'm still overriding stuff like that Warren over Diggs pick there, just because I know how many other wide receivers there are that we could take. This is a pretty good value on Steph Diggs here. Herzig, any thoughts on this pick?
I would take the Diggs. We're getting a round plus of ADP value. As I said, 5th wide receivers, nothing to really be concerned about. Gives us another stack if we wanted of a Drake May. I'm good with it.
Yeah. And I do think Diggs' ADP is going to rise. I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen the videos by now, not the boat videos, but the OTA videos where he looks shockingly good 7 months removed from his ACL tear, considering he's 31 years old. I mean, cutting and running at full speed 7 months out, I was impressed. So I think his ADP actually will rise, assuming that kind of trajectory continues through training camp here.
Yeah, and I think we have already seen it like a couple. Like you saw a bit of a dip where the pink candy dust made it drop, and the good video now made it go up a little.
All right. We do not have a tight end yet. I think on DraftKings, I'm more likely to go elite tight end. That's one of the things we talked about in the other video. We didn't really have a shot at it here as Bowers and McBride both went before we could get back to us in round 2. The reason, though, that those guys can separate more on DraftKings is simply because they can get the 100-yard bonus and it's full PPR. Whereas on Underdog, I mean, if you get a touchdown or two from your tight end, it's likely going to be one of the better tight end scores of the entire week. And so getting 3 tight ends on Underdog that can score a touchdown for me, hope to get a touchdown, mix and match one every week, I think is viable. It's harder on DraftKings because like 2 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown, that's not going to be that great on DraftKings. So what do you think about the spot we're in at tight end right now, Herzig?
Yeah, well, we kind of knew early on that we wanted to go Dallas Goedert. So once we kind of had that in mind and we missed out on the Bowers McBride, my head goes to this is probably going to be a 3 tight end build. And I still want to think like, okay, what's Dallas's Goedert's ADP? Is it like 140?
Yeah, it's too low. I mean, we're way above market. We're at 126 and it's 138. It's starting to come up, but yeah.
Yeah. But I just like to look and see, like, okay, so you can see at the top here, it says your picks. We have pick 143, 146. 122 is if we wanted to kind of guarantee it. It'd be a bit of a reach, but we're otherwise hoping that he falls a little. So just something to keep in mind, depending on who else is available. It's probably too much of a reach for me. People probably let him fall to the Jalen Hurts drafter, which is us, but at least want to be cognizant of it.
I will say I do like a lot of these guys. I like Njoku. I like Mark Andrews. I think Loveland's been going a little bit too late. I think Tyler Warren, he goes too early on DraftKings, but on Underdog he goes super late. And I'm fine with like the Ferguson, also Freiermuth. Like there are some tight ends that we like. We're going to end up with 3 of them here, so I put all those guys in the queue there. We're coming up as 119 and 122.
I like those. Yeah, if we ended up with 2 tight ends in the next 4 picks, I think that's pretty solid. I will like that the running backs that are still available kind of intrigued me with regards to our build. And I know if we don't grab a running back or 2 here, we're not going to like what's available later on.
Yep. I have a lot of guys in the queue now. A lot of guys in the queue.
Lot of action.
Yep. All right, there goes Mark Andrews. Yeah, I mean the Bateman, we saw Bateman get the contract today. I was just like, we didn't get to talk about it on the ADP stands, but we're way below market on Bateman. It's just hard to get there on volume. I mean, even in his breakout year, and I thought he played really well last year, and Lamar was absolutely insane, and he still only averaged 4.2 targets per game. It's like, it's really hard to get there on Bateman volume stuff. So on a site like DraftKings where a catch is worth so much, volume matters a ton.
Right. And it's because the Baltimore passing game, they just don't pass that often. And so when you're doing these actual projections, you need to have like if you're going top down, you need to at least have an idea of what that passing is going to look like across the season. And there's just not that much to go around. And then you also brought in DeAndre Hopkins, who we're not even projecting for much, but like it's not no one. It's better than what they've had before.
All right. Best running back available to us would be Scatabo. Quarterback would be JJ McCarthy. And then we have the tight end situation, which pretty much all of them are available to us. Any thoughts on this pick?
Can you go to the draft board real quick and see what does the other person have with tight ends?
He has
they have 2 tight ends, so we're kind of. Oh no,
he has
just likely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would go Scatabo. It's a position of need. He profiles as pass catching running back, and we still have a lot of tight ends with the next one that we can choose from.
Indeed, I like that. Oh my God, he took Goddard. Well,
you know what? Glad it happened already. Like we weren't going to take him a 122 probably.
Yeah, I do think Goddard's someone that's probably rising. Not that this guy on the end is thinking like that, but he is rising. I like Njoku, man. It's not McCarthy is a fine pick, but like I'm willing to wait on quarterback when we already have Jalen Hurts. So it would be Njoku for me. Any thoughts here, Herzig?
Agreed. If this was Underdog, I'd probably go with McCarthy here because then I could say, hey, I'm very content with those 2 wide receivers. Also, if we would have gone Addison instead of Aaron Jones, then I would have gone JJ McCarthy because then we would have had 2 pass options. Instead, we have a wide receiver and a running back. We're more investing in the team, don't need that QB to go with it. And we really needed a tight end.
Yeah. And we have other backdoors too. We have Bryce Young backdoor. I have Drake May starred already. So yeah, let me just star the Bryce Young backdoor here so I don't forget about him. Like, how willing are you on DraftKings to go 2 quarterback? I'm almost always going 3, but in some of these elite quarterback builds, and I do believe Hurts is an elite quarterback, I can maybe try to sneak 2 through. Any thoughts on 2 versus 3 quarterback builds here?
I'm just more likely to push the second guy as we're doing because knowing I can grab a late one as my third. And so, like, the value of that roster spot isn't as great as it is when you only have 18 on underdog. And because what's available late in the drafts with tight ends and quarterbacks is pretty easy just to add on to get to those 3. So I have Jalen Hurts. I'm not scared of, the elite one with the when you're stacking it. I don't do as much elite, but hey, 5th rounder is honestly a pretty good value. But then I'm like, okay, let me not reach on my other quarterbacks. Let me just see what can fall to me where I can get some ADP value, knowing I can always end with an Aaron Rodgers who stacks with the Jalen Warren.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see where Aaron Rodgers goes. People might be excited to take him after today's news. You don't know.
I'm surprised he hasn't been drafted yet.
Do you have a take on the ETN versus Tootin stuff? I tweeted about it this week, and my God, I got a lot of angry people. I didn't think that this was such a hot button issue, but yeah, what are your thoughts on ETN versus Tootin versus Bigsby right now? ETN went, 5 picks ahead of Tootin here.
Yeah, so I think that the area of the draft is interesting because ETN and Tootin both go very similarly. And then you also have like someone like Javonte Williams going very similarly. And when we look at those 2 backfields, they're both very ambiguous backfields. But for me, whoever's going to win the Jacksonville backfield, assuming someone does, that's going to be very valuable. And then compared to the Dallas, someone might win it. Javonte, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue, whatever it is. But like even winning that may not be that big of a deal. And so that's why I'm more willing to lean into the Jacksonville side of things. I agree from a pure projections, from like a likelihood standpoint, Facial Tootin is probably overdrafted. But in the case he's right, everyone has the Bucky Irving with the Liam Cohen in the mindset. He's an explosive, efficient runner if he can hold on to the ball. Like when you're right, it hits in a big way. And then I think ETN is just the most likely to end up being the starter, even though it may not be as exciting because he's, later on in his career, hasn't been efficient in the past 2 years. Maybe it was injury last year. I'm not sure. But like there's still value to if he's the starting running back in that offense at the price you're getting him at, go for it. So I like drafting a little less Tank Bigsby, especially not on DraftKings because of PPR, but Tootin and ETN a good amount.
Yeah. One thing about this draft, I try to be just relentless with my wide receivers on DraftKings. Normally by this time in the draft, when I'm drafting on DraftKings, I have 6 or 7 already. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to take here. Hollywood Brown would be the best, but I don't think it's even that great of a pick. Rashad White's also available to us here, and JJ McCarthy.
I would take JJ McCarthy. Yeah. And you see his ADP was 123.6. We got him at 143. That's the benefit of being able to kind of not concern yourself with needing to reach because we knew we could do the 3 QB. And now it gives us flexibility. We maybe go 3 QB, but you also don't have to go 3 QB with just these 2.
Yeah. Let me just make sure the bye weeks are different. Yes, McCarthy 6 and
9 and 6
and Hurts 9. Yes, I haven't memorized my bye week flashcards yet. I'm sorry.
Although Drake May falling here would also be pretty interesting. You're getting again 2 rounds of value on a stack.
I know. I don't know that we can do that. I would almost like if we took Rashad White here, maybe we could be done at running back. I don't know, but like I'm worried we're way behind at wide receiver, even though we used 1, 2, 3, 4 at wide receiver.
Oh, I think our wide receivers are so strong still.
You want to go Rashad White then?
I'd go Rashad White.
Okay.
I mean, let's go to the board real quick and just like remind ourselves. I mean, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, like we're counting Justin Jefferson every week. AJ Brown on a PPR site, we're still counting probably 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think when we spend as much capital we did early on, I'm not concerned. And I think the wide receivers that go now are really not that much different than what are going to go in another 4 rounds.
Yeah.
So sure, we want to get more, but I care more about the drop offs at the other positions.
Well, I think that's to me the strongest point is that like I don't really love Hollywood Brown or Alec Pierce or whatever, anyways, or even if Wandale
Right.
slipped, it's like whatever, it's not really helping us all that much.
Yeah, agreed. But like Rashad White, and then compare the next couple running backs that go off the board, that's going to
Yeah,
be a big gap in my mind.
yeah, and Rashad White's going to play, man. I mean, I know that it was all Bucky. They cannot down the stretch last year. They cannot do that for the full 17 games. I don't think they really have any intention to. Rashad White's going to play in passing situations, 2 minute, third and long. And then if something happens to Bucky, yeah, Sean Tucker's going to play. But I think Rashad White will have a pretty strong projection on a week to week basis if Bucky were to miss time.
Agreed, 100%. I think he is a target on all sites and a strong target on DraftKings.
Yeah. All right, we are coming back around here. Again, this is 20 round draft. So like it feels like we're starting to scrape, Alec Pierce, Xavier Legette. So people who are inexperienced or, aren't ETR subscribers, they're not spending all their time on Twitter, on fantasy Twitter like us, it starts to scrape and we still have 6 rounds to go, right? So like this is where I think you can also get a pretty big edge here with like really late picks. When I won the 333 on DraftKings, like one of my last picks, I think my last pick was Isaiah Likely, and he ended up counting for me in the last week, and made a huge difference. Whereas if it was 18 rounds, I wouldn't even had Isaiah Likely, and so just knowing more about the deeper players certainly gives you an edge on DraftKings.
Yeah, a few years back, one of my big Week 17 performers was Darrell Williams when the Chiefs were playing the Bengals, and like that was without a doubt a round 19, round 20 guy that would not have shown on my team in 18 rounds, but was big.
All right, so we lost all our stat guys. We do have the Aaron Rodgers backdoor if we want to get a third one in. Beyond that, more running back help. I think Trey Benson is fine. Emergency break the glass on Justice Hill is okay. I do like Will Shipley and Jalen Wright. Beyond that, I'm not too excited about too many other guys. Tillman, Palmer, it starts to get, and probably Slayton are like my favorites down here, and I guess Diami too, but these guys growing way later. And then a tight end, which we certainly need help at. All these guys I think are pretty interesting.
So while we do need help at tight end, there's also like always tight ends available. So we don't, it's not like I feel like we have to get, because you could always get a Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, someone later.
Yeah. Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with that Tremble injury.
Yeah.
I think the Trey Benson is probably a tier of his own for right now.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think if there's a wide receiver you like, go for it, because this is the kind of last area where there's wide receivers that are actually starters. After that, we get into a little rough.
Yeah. I think we should take Trey Benson here just because I agree he's a tier above. If something were to happen to James Conner, I mean, Trey Benson's one injury away from an injury-prone older back to having a really big role. So I like Trey Benson here. My thought on Tillman is like, if Joe Flacco is playing, I want Tillman. If he's not, I'm not really that interested. So it's tough, but as of now, I do think Flacco has like pretty reasonable path to starts this season. So Tillman would probably be my favorite of the wide receivers here. But I could be talking to Palmer too. Any thoughts on the wide receivers that are left?
I'm good with either. I like the Tillman. I think the benefit for Tillman as well is like, I don't expect the Browns to bench Flacco because he's not doing well. I'd expect it because they're seeing something out of Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders that they're excited about. And so in that world, okay, we're getting another QB because we expect that QB to actually do well.
Yeah.
The Browns, I think they like their team. They think they have a chance of making the playoffs basically on their defense, and they're just going to use Flacco more as kind of the game manager. And that's why I don't think until like if they were completely out of the playoffs end of the year, they're bringing in one of the rookies or Pickett, unless like they actually. I don't think there's much for Pickett, but unless they actually see something in one of the rookies.
So we only have one tight end here. I never do it, but this would be one build where I would be like, man, we have two pretty good quarterbacks. Could we actually take 4 tight ends on this team? Any thoughts on that?
I'd be okay with that as long as those 4 tight ends, I mean, we're using up that like round 19, round 20. And I know that like people are pretty set and like, oh, but I don't want to do too much in an individual position. You look at that round 20, pretty much any player in round 20, like they're not going to be able to help you, but a tight end in round 20 is actually the most likely to actually be able to put up results. And given how bad our tight end room is, they're the one who's most likely to outperform the other starters. So I don't mind it.
By the way, like things you see on DraftKings, Tank Dell, who was not expected to play at all this year, went in round 14. So yes.
I didn't even see that. Where is he? Wow.
One other thing to note on DraftKings that is kind of unique, you get the questionable tags on guys, and I don't know if there are any here, like Anthony Richardson, questionable, and his ADP will fall. Now, that's a legit injury, right? But sometimes they put questionable tags on guys that do not have a legit injury. And obviously, if you're subscribed and you are following our rankings, we have pretty good guesses, I think, about who's hurt, who will actually be out there week one, who's going to be out there in September, October, whatever. And so you can kind of ignore those questionable tags and go off more of the ranks, which is another edge there on DK, I think.
Yeah, they just did a refresh, I think, yesterday, the day before, because even like guys like Rashee Rice had that Q tag, and that was making them a value. That Q tag's now gone, and I shed a little tear, one tear just for that Q tag.
If Aaron Rodgers gets to us, do you want to take him here? Again, I'm okay with these two quarterbacks, but I get the case for 3 when you have 20 rounds.
I'd be okay with it. There goes Freiermuth too. It's not like I'm then going to be like, oh, let me go grab Calvin Austin. Like I need to backstack him. You could just be fine with, hey, Rodgers and Jalen Warren. And honestly, when you have someone like Jalen Hurts, you're probably not counting on Rodgers like for the playoffs. It's more of just, hey, throughout there, maybe you get some kind of lucky aspect. But it's not like I'm making it a major priority to get a stack of, forcing it.
Yeah. Rico Dowdle has not gone yet. The Chuba Hubbard versus Rico Dowdle, quote unquote battle, I don't think will be much of a battle, but I do think Rico will have a role and obviously one injury away. So I'll go ahead and put him in there, although we already have 6 running backs here. But yeah, we're coming up at pick 191. Any thoughts as we come up here? There goes Rico.
Okay. I mean, I think our build is likely a 2-7-7-4 or a 3-7-7-3.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like, I think who are the tight ends available besides Dalton Schultz?
Yeah, I'm fine with Chig. I'm fine with Noah Gray, Juwan Johnson, Theo, like down to here, down to Jatavian Sanders, I think I'm fine with all those guys. And honestly, like you could talk me into Terrence Ferguson as well.
Especially if you're doing a 4 tight end build. Because when I'm doing 4 tight ends, I don't want like a Noah Gray guy. I'm not going for like safety. I'm going for a breakout. Now, unless your argument is Noah Gray, an injury away from a breakout.
Yes.
But like, yeah, Terrence Ferguson, I want because, yeah, he may get you zeros, but that's okay. You got 3 other tight ends. But come playoff time, now he's actually, hey, performing very well. He's actually performing like a top 10 tight end. Who knows? But that's what I want more dart throws to the upside.
Yeah. I did skip over the Cleveland guys. I just do not have a great feel for how that's going to go right now. Hopefully later in the summer I will, but it's hard for me to see Jerome Ford having a role late in the year. Marshawn Lloyd hopefully can beat Emmanuel Sanders and be the 1 injury away guy there. And then the Blake Corum versus Jarquez Hunter. My current lean on that is Blake Corum is Kyron's direct backup, and Jarquez, they think, hopefully carves out some like small package role of his own.
Yeah. DJ Giddens is probably my favorite of this group.
Yeah.
Because you could see him actually having a pass catching role in that offense. The number 2 right now is Khalil Herbert behind Jonathan Taylor. That's not someone who's catching any passes. So I could see, I could see him actually having an immediate kind of role. And then 1 injury away if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt from.
So best tight end available to us, I think, is pretty clearly Schultz here.
Yep.
We could also try to do the Rodgers thing, but I think Schultz is probably more of a priority. What do you think?
I think that's exactly that. I think we still can do Rodgers with the next one, but Schultz allows us to feel a little more comfortable with a 3 tight end build if we have to.
Yeah. And yeah, there are some reports out there about CJ Stroud's shoulder, which they've downplayed, but we'll see. Anyways, do you want to go 3 quarterback here with Rodgers?
I'd go Rodgers. We're getting a value on Rodgers too. His ADP is going to increase.
His ADP, yes. Now that he's officially signed, his ADP indeed is about to spike. So here we are with 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. I think we need obviously at least 1 more tight end. And, these are my 2 favorite right now, kind of Slayton and Diami. Not that they're like breakout candidates, but like candidates for usable weeks. If he wanted to ask for breakout candidates, it's rough down here. Probably Tesla would be like the only one who I could see being like, well, he had a wide range of outcomes and he just was awesome and went off. Are there any other stabs at wide receiver you like? I guess Jalen Noel also could be interesting.
Yeah, I think not really sure why he's been dropping lately, but he has. I think you actually maybe touched on him on Market Monday. But he's going to start behind Christian Kirk, but he could definitely see himself a role.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, I think he's a tier above the other guys when we're thinking about like last round. I like Tutu Atwell more on underdog because of his style of play, but I think he's going to be there in 3 wide receiver sets. We're not sure how much 1-2 they're going to play, but I mean, 12 they're going to play, but yeah. I'm looking and I see so tight ends. We're definitely grabbing tight end. We're definitely going to grab at least 1 wide receiver. It's that last position that we're trying to figure out. So usually it's in that situation, like, okay, let's make sure we focus on wide receiver tight end for these. And then the 20th round, we'll have the second to last pick in the draft. We can just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like there are starting tight ends available in round 18, 19, 20. There is no other position that can say that. I mean, Theo Johnson's a starter. Jatavian Sanders is a starter. And you've seen we got Dalton Schultz, who's been like a reasonably productive player in round 16 here. Chig had some really good moments last year. Maybe Cam Ward can lift him up. Tyler Higbee's been a really good NFL player. Hunter Henry here in round 16 too. So like waiting on tight end and trying to do it with volume is certainly a way that you can play it. And if I were to take Bowers or McBride, I would not start taking tight ends again personally, probably until this round 16 plus range.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry might lead that team in targets. I could see any of Hunter Henry, Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas, Stephon Diggs. Like, if any of those led in targets for the year, I wouldn't be shocked. On an ascending offense with Drake May. So, yeah.
All right. So Chig, Theo Johnson, Noah Gray off the board for us here at the tight end spot. Yeah, the Jatavian Sanders, we were talking about this yesterday when we were working on the rankings. The Tommy Tremble injury is wide. We don't know if Tommy Tremble's going to be back sometime in camp or is going to be back mid-season, but Jatavian Sanders certainly has some talent and I think would be an interesting pick for us here.
Yeah, his splits with Tremble on and off the field or in and out of games are pretty remarkable. I was fully out on Jatavian Sanders going into this year because I thought like this is someone that people are still just holding on to the pre-draft priors of him as an athlete, but not really paying attention to what role he was going to have in Carolina. But with that Tremble injury, I think it just opens a lot of things up. So he's I wouldn't call him like a target, but definitely a end of draft tight end I'm happy to draft.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Noel at this point, I don't know why he's slid so far. This is a really far slide for Jalen Noel, who we're at pick 211. His ADP is 182.
Yeah. There's, what is it? Yeah. I mean, there's no note on him or anything. I don't understand why he's been falling so much, but he definitely has.
Yeah.
You look at the guys that have been going around him that are getting drafted before him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like Slayton, and like Coker and Lockett, but we know what those guys are. Maybe Jalen Noel turns out to be like really freaking good. It's just the uncertainty at this late in the draft can certainly help us.
Yeah, and he was he was a 3rd rounder, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, coming back to us here at 215. There goes Jalen Noel. So, what do you think about this pick here? We have De'Ami Brown's the only one I have starred. I could also make a case for Tesla, and then at tight end, Sanders and Ferguson.
How many tight ends does the guy in the first slot have? Remember, he had likely
and Goddard and Higbee. Yep.
Okay, so he's unlikely to grab a tight end. So I'd focus on the wide receiver we want here.
Yeah. My favorite is De'Ami, but it's...
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Yeah, I've given my take on De'Ami a few times, but given the commitment the new regime gave to him, I do expect him to beat out Parker Washington. And then back to us here for whatever tight end that we want. Probably be Jatavian Sanders for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have the unstacked the unquarterback stack here. No Bryce Young, but we do have Ted McMillan and Jatavian Sanders now. Yes. All right. Last pick coming up here. We could go Fannin or Ferguson as a 4th tight end. Again, that's not something I normally do. Any other thoughts on running back or wide receiver here, Herzig?
I feel good about our tight ends. I think Njoku is strong enough by himself to keep us to that 3 tight ends. This then let's see our running back room real quick. Let's get a refresher there. I know that we didn't take one for a bit.
Yeah, so we took 3 straight. Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren. Scatterbo, we got a pretty good value on. Same with Rashad White, and then 1 injury away. Standalone value on Trey Benson is going to be tough, I think, but 1 injury away on Trey Benson.
And then wide receivers, we know we started off with really strong Jefferson, Brown, Higgins, McMillan, Diggs, Tillman, Diami. I think my first instinct would be, okay, who do we have as potential stack partners that are still available?
Yeah.
You can go Ty Felton as a late Viking.
Mm-hmm.
Third round.
You can search here, just showing the people by team. So all Steelers will show here. Nothing great.
Yeah, I'd go to wide. You can click on wide receiver too. It'll help us.
Yeah. You can go to the Vikings.
Yeah, there's Ty Felton. That's probably kind of my favorite so far. End of the third round.
And then Eagles is going to be
no one.
Dotson. I'm tech lording. Oh, Dotson.
See, I mean, yeah, that's last round rookie.
Yeah.
Arian Smith, if we has been looking good for the Jets, speedster.
Yeah.
But no, I think Ty Felton's probably my top option for the stack. A player that's not being drafted much. So if he does break out, we get the uniqueness angle.
Yeah. Yeah. And what Herzig's talking about there, for anyone who doesn't follow that stuff too closely, is if you make it to the final or the playoffs and you have a player who wasn't drafted in all the leagues and they go off, it's a huge edge because no one else, not very many other people even have him rostered, let alone made the playoffs with him. It just gives you the uniqueness stuff that we talk about in DFS all the time, where it can drag you up the leaderboard in these really, really big contests. I don't think about that as much in the smaller contests, but in the larger ones, I think it does make sense. And for Underdog, we do have the ownership projections, how owned we think a player will be in Best Ball Mania.
Yeah, and you can kind of apply that to other contests to other sites as long as they're open for the whole year, directionally accurate. Obviously, 18th round versus 20th round, so a little difference there. But from understanding who's not being drafted much, it still helps.
And so Rymack here had 4 tight ends. He went Laporta and then 3 late in his last 3 out of his last 4 rounds.
But I mean, I was going to judge and be like, I don't want to do that when I draft Laporta, but it's 3 of his last 4 runs, and it's Theo Johnson, Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson. It's all guys with upside. Those are Terrence Ferguson and Theo Johnson are extremely athletic, like RAS superstars. And then Arroyo, it really comes down to, does Noah Fant get cut, which I expected to happen by now or soon because they owe him like a lot of money, and but we haven't seen it.
Yeah. Good news on Keaton Mitchell lately too, in terms of health, and he was unreal a couple years ago before he started with all the injury stuff. But come back to us here with our second to last pick of the draft. We have Corum, Fannin, and Ty Felton all starred here. Any thoughts, Herzig?
Yeah, I mean,
no one wants Jerome Ford. My God,
I know. I don't hate grabbing Core. Okay. We are weaker at running back than wide receiver. I'm okay with Corum, and then I'd go probably Ty Felton second.
Yeah. Again, I don't think that they're going to reduce Kyren Williams' role, but some of the rhetoric this offseason has suggested that. I don't think that's likeliest to happen, but we'll see.
I do think though, if Kyren was to get hurt, Corum gets the majority of the work, because I don't think that Jacques Hunter has like the profile that they want to be their, hey, every down running back. I think he's more of a kind of a lightning complementary style.
Yeah. I mean, this is really late too. What is Corum? Yeah. We have him 186. ADP is 208, and we're here at 239 on Corum. My God.
Yeah, I'd take him.
What a draft. So there was some wild stuff that went on here in this draft. We kind of got boxed in a little bit, I think. There's not much I think we could have done differently here. I like starting so wide receiver heavy on DraftKings. Obviously, we're making some thinner bets at running back here, but we still get elite quarterback. And then, yeah, the tight end room, I'm okay with it. I don't think any of these guys are going to be like super high volume unless Flacco is playing for Cleveland, in which case Njoku could be really strong. But yeah, any final thoughts on this team here, Herzig?
I think it's a good example of like you let the draft come to you. And also, if you're going to go zero RB, I want to do it with an elite either QB or tight end. We didn't get the tight end because the elite ones kind of went early, but we did it with the Jalen Hurts. We stacked that. And then we also went pretty heavy on running backs in the rounds after. And I think we got some, decent wide range of those running backs for like Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren might help us a little early on. Then you have some other guys that can kind of be hopefully like late season bloomers for us. So I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even really consider this zero RB. Like to me, zero RB wait even longer than round 6 or round 7 to take your first running back. But it's a form of it. I just want to say that team at the end here. I'm not talking about like the individual players, although I'm fine with the individual players, but like hero RB feels a little bit better to me on DraftKings than he ends up with Purdy and Geno, which is a little thin, only 2 quarterbacks. But yeah, this like start here where you have Achane and then a bunch of wide receivers or tight end, and then you wait on quarterback and get 3 stacked options there is kind of what more of my builds on DraftKings look like.
I
All
like that.
right. Hopefully, this was helpful for anyone who's looking to draft best ball on DraftKings this year. If you're interested in anything about that tool that was giving us some of the numbers to help us along the way, head to the best ball tab on Establish the Run. There's a little section there called Tools. You can click through for more information on what that tool is. For Herzig, Brucer Ryan, for all of our friends at DraftKings, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.